Welcome back to the Sanctuary of Truth, the only place where we dare to dissect the rotting carcass of narcissistic delusion with surgical precision. You are here because you have survived a war that left no physical scars but nearly incinerated your soul. You have watched the person you loved walk away with a chilling smile, convinced they have won, while you were left in the wreckage of your own devotion. But today, we are pulling back the heavy velvet curtain on the final act of their tragedy. We are answering the one question that haunts your midnight hours: how does it end for the predator who thinks they just escaped? There is a specific, fatal move they make, a psychological point of no return. And once they do this, their path to a tragic, lonely collapse is absolutely inevitable. Picture a cinematic landscape where the shadows are long and the air is thick with the scent of a coming storm. You are standing in the middle of a bridge that has been set on fire by the very person who swore to protect you. They are on the other side, laughing as the flames climb higher, believing they have successfully traded your light for a shallow, neon-lit fantasy. This is the moment of the final discard, but what they don't see is that the ground is crumbling beneath their feet. They think they are heading toward a new paradise, but they have actually walked into a hall of mirrors where the only thing they will ever find is their own hollow reflection. We are exposing the secret knowledge of why their apparent victory is actually a death sentence for their ego. The big haunting question isn't whether they miss you, it's why they are biologically and psychologically destined to fail once they erase you from their reality. You were not just a partner, you were the load-bearing wall of their entire psychological structure. When they decide to do this, to treat you as if you never existed, to replace your depth with a hollow caricature, they are effectively pulling the plug on their own life support. They believe they are moving on to better things, but a parasite that discards its most nutritious host is only signing its own warrant for starvation. You are about to witness the mechanics of a slow-burn psychological suicide that they cannot stop once it has begun. Stay with me, because this isn't just about their failure, it's about your liberation. For too long, you have been trapped in the why of their cruelty, wondering if you were truly as replaceable as they made you feel. I am here to tell you that your high-value empathy was the only thing keeping their darkness at bay. The moment they commit the act of total erasure, they lose the one mirror that showed them a version of themselves they could actually tolerate. Without your gaze to humanize them, they descend into a primal, predatory state that eventually alienates everyone they encounter. They aren't escaping you. They are escaping into a void that will eventually swallow them whole. Think of this as a documentary of a psychological shipwreck. The narcissist is the captain who decided to throw the lighthouse keeper overboard because the light was too bright and exposed the leaks in the hull. Now, they are sailing into the dark, convinced they are free, unaware that the rocks are waiting just beneath the surface. The "this" in our title, the act that seals their fate, is the moment they choose to believe their own lies so completely that they discard the only person who actually saw their truth and loved them anyway. Once that bridge is ashes, they are trapped on an island of their own making, and the tide is coming in fast. Most people think narcissists get away with it. They see them on social media with a new supply, looking happier than ever, and they feel a crushing sense of injustice. But I need you to understand that everything you see is a carefully curated propaganda film designed to mask a terrifying internal collapse. The narcissist is a dopamine addict who just burned down the pharmacy. The new person isn't a soulmate, they are a temporary bandage on a gaping, gangrenous wound. Once the narcissist does this, once they decide to sacrifice your long-term devotion for a short-term hit of ego validation, they have entered a cycle of diminishing returns that always ends in total bankruptcy. This video is a mix of psychological warfare breakdown and cinematic revelation. We are going to deconstruct the extinction burst of their ego. We are going to show you why their new life is actually a frantic, manic attempt to outrun the shame of what they did to you. They are currently in a state of duper's delight, but the high is already fading. The tragedy of the narcissist is that they are forever seeking a home they can never inhabit because they burn every house they enter. By the time this script is over, you will no longer feel like the victim. You will realize you were the prize that the thief was too broken to keep. Have you ever wondered why they become so much more aggressive and cold right at the end? It's because they are trying to kill the part of themselves that still needs you. The act of leaving you isn't a choice, it's a desperate survival mechanism for their false self. They do this They dehumanize you and cast you as the villain, because if you are a monster, then their betrayal is justified. But the brain doesn't work that way. The subconscious knows they destroyed a diamond for a handful of gravel, and that secret knowledge begins to rot their mind from the inside out, manifesting as paranoia, bitterness, and an insatiable hunger that nothing can fill. We are moving into the heart of the black hole psychology. A narcissist is an entity that exists only through the recognition of others. When they erase a high-quality supplier like you, they are essentially committing ego amputation. They think they are losing a burden, but they are actually losing their anchor. What follows is a tragic descent into irrelevance. They become shadow dwellers, hopping from one superficial connection to another, each one shorter and more hollow than the last. The end isn't a bang, it's a long, agonizing whimper in a room full of people who don't even know their real name. Brace yourself for Chapter 2, where we will break down the hidden motives behind their final act of betrayal. We are going to use visceral metaphors to show you the chaos that reigns in their internal world once the light of your empathy is gone. If you are ready to stop looking back at the burning bridge and start looking forward at the horizon, then you are ready for the truth. The narcissist didn't leave you to find something better, they left because they were terrified of being seen by you. And that fear is the very thing that will lead them to their tragic, inevitable end. The exposure begins now. To understand why the narcissist is destined for a tragic end, you must first understand the parasite-host dynamic. A narcissist has no internal generator of self-worth. They are a psychological moon, only capable of reflecting the light of a sun. You were that sun. You provided the emotional heat, the stability, and the moral compass that they lacked. When they do this, when they discard the host to find a newer sun, they don't realize that they have entered a frozen void. They think they can just plug into anyone and get the same current, but they eventually discover that most people are just other moons, cold and empty, offering nothing but a hollow reflection of their own darkness. Their hidden motive for leaving you is annihilation anxiety. As the relationship progressed, your intimacy became a threat. You started to see the small child behind the grandiose mask. You saw the cracks in their stories, the insecurity in their eyes, and the shame in their silence. For a narcissist, being known is the same as being destroyed. They leave you not because you failed, but because you succeeded in getting too close to the truth. They do this to protect the false self from the terrifying light of your awareness. They are like a vampire who burns down the house because the windows were cleaned and the sunlight was starting to leak in. Inside the narcissist's mind, there is a visceral metaphor of a collapsing cathedral. Their ego is a massive, ornate structure built on the stolen labor of others. You were the foundation. When they decide to erase you, they are pulling out the very pillars that held up their sense of reality. They think they can build a new cathedral with the new supply, but they are trying to build on shifting sand. Without your history, your loyalty, and your deep understanding of their complexities, the new structure is flimsy and cheap. It's a cardboard cutout of a life, and the first wind of real adversity will send the whole thing flying into the abyss. The narcissist is a temporal nomad, forever stuck in the eternal now. They have no object constancy, which means that once you are out of their sight, you cease to exist as a three-dimensional human with feelings. They do this, they move on instantly, because they have the emotional depth of a puddle. But this lack of depth is their curse. Because they cannot form lasting bonds, they can never build a legacy or a home. They are destined to spend their lives in emotional transit, living in the departure's lounge of human connection, always waiting for a flight to a destination that doesn't exist. Their internal chaos is like a static-filled television screen. There is no coherent narrative in their head, only a series of loud, jarring images of need and greed. When they leave you, they are trying to change the channel to escape the noise of their own guilt. But the static follows them. The new person is just a different background for the same distortion. Once the novelty phase ends, and it always ends, the narcissist is left with the same screeching silence they tried to escape. They do this to find peace, but they are the primary source of their own war, and you cannot flee from your own mind. Let's talk about the supply chain of the narcissist. They view people as fuel tanks. You were a high-octane, premium tank that lasted for years. When they do this, when they trade you for a low-grade, superficial tank, they are sabotaging their own engine. They think they are being efficient by finding someone easier and less demanding, but they are actually lowering their own quality of life. They descend into a world of cheap supply, people who don't know them, don't care about them, and will discard them the moment the fun stops. The narcissist is essentially trading a mansion for a series of dirty motels. Their hidden fear is the mirror of truth. You were the only one who held up a mirror that reflected their potential greatness alongside their actual flaws. They hated you for the flaws, but they needed you for the greatness. When they leave, they seek out distorted mirrors, people who will only see the mask. But a mask cannot be loved, and a mask cannot love back. The narcissist enters a state of profound loneliness that they mask with frantic social activity. They are surrounded by people, yet they are more alone than they have ever been, because no one in their new life actually knows who they are. The dramatic shift occurs when they realize the new supply is just another mirror they will eventually have to break. The narcissist is a compulsive destroyer. They are driven by a subconscious need to ruin anything that is good because goodness reminds them of what they lost in themselves. They do this, they leave the best thing they ever had, to prove to themselves that they don't need anyone. But this independence is a lie. It's actually total dependency on a rotating door of strangers. They are like a shark that has to keep biting even when it isn't hungry, just to know its jaws still work. Their internal world is a graveyard of discarded selves. Every time they leave a partner, they leave a piece of their own history behind. By the time they reach middle age or old age, they have no coherent story. They are a collection of stolen personas, a Frankenstein's monster made of the interests, habits, and phrases of their exes. They do this to reinvent themselves, but they are just becoming more fragmented. The tragedy is that they eventually forget who they were supposed to be. They are a hollow shell traveling through time, leaving a trail of wreckage in their wake, unaware that they are the primary victim of their own total erasure. As we move into Chapter 3, the power is going to shift. We are going to see what happens when the narcissist's final act fails to produce the victory they expected. We are going to detail the exact moment they realize they made a catastrophic mistake, and how they react when they can no longer control the narrative. The plot twist is coming. They didn't just leave you. They exiled themselves from the only real thing they ever had. The dramatic turning point begins now, and it is going to be a cold, hard awakening for the predator who thought they were done with you. The dramatic turning point arrives when the dopamine fog of the new discard begins to lift. For a few weeks, the narcissist felt like a god. They felt powerful because they broke you and moved on without a scratch. They felt free because the new supply is currently worshipping the mask. But then, the first glitch happens. The new person does something human. They have a bad day, they make a demand, or they fail to mirror the narcissist perfectly. In that split second, the narcissist's mind flashes back to you. They remember the safety of your empathy, and the first seed of pathological regret is planted in the dark soil of their ego. This is the moment the power shift occurs, though you may not see it yet. The narcissist is now haunted by the very person they tried to erase. They start to stalk your progress. They check your social media, they ask mutual friends about you, and they look for any sign that you are suffering. Why? Because if you are thriving, it means they weren't the sun in your universe. It means their exit didn't destroy you. This causes a narcissistic injury that feels like a physical wound. They do this, they leave you, to prove their dominance, but your indifference is the one thing that can actually break them. The narcissist's reaction to failed control is manic triangulation. When they realize you aren't begging to come back, they turn up the volume on their new life. They post more photos, they go on more trips, and they make sure the world sees how happy they are. It's a psychological performance for an audience of one, you. They are screaming into the void, trying to get a reaction, trying to pull you back into the ring for one last fight. If you stay dark, if you stay silent, the narcissist begins to decompensate. They are losing the war of attrition, and the panic is starting to show through the cracks in the mask. Now comes the plot twist. The narcissist realizes that the new supply is actually a downgrade. They might be younger or prettier on the surface, but they lack the soul that you provided. The narcissist starts to feel bored. The novelty high is gone, and they are left with a person who doesn't know their code, doesn't understand their history, and doesn't offer the deep supply they are used to. They do this, they leave the gold for the glitter, and now they are realizing that glitter doesn't keep you warm at night. They are starving in the middle of a feast of superficiality. The shift in power is absolute when the survivor reaches total indifference. When you stop caring what they think, when you stop looking for justice, and when you stop monitoring their life, you effectively amputate them from your reality. To a narcissist, being ignored is the same as being annihilated. They would rather you hate them than be indifferent to them. Your silence is a black hole that sucks in their grandiosity. They start to feel invisible. And for an entity that exists only through attention, invisibility is the first stage of death. Watch how the narcissist reacts when the Hoover fails. They might send a breadcrumb text, a random link, a memory, or a fake apology. If you don't respond, the narcissistic rage is triggered. They feel rejected, even though they were the one who left. Their secret thoughts are a chaotic mess of how dare she, and who does she think she is? They are no longer the architect of the situation, they are a petulant child who lost their favorite toy. They do this, they leave you, expecting you to be a shelf they can come back to, and finding the shelf is gone is a trauma they cannot process. The narcissist's social capital begins to rot. Because they are manic and unstable from the loss of your supply, they start to make mistakes in their public persona. They become overly aggressive, arrogant, or pitiable in ways that alienate their flying monkeys. People start to see the shadow they tried to hide. The new supply starts to get devalued earlier than usual because the narcissist is desperate to find the high they had with you. The empire of lies is starting to wobble, and the narcissist is the one who kicked the first brick. This is the psychological plot twist that changes everything. The narcissist begins to fear you. They fear your silence because they don't know what you are thinking. They fear your empowerment because it proves they were the weight that was holding you back. They do this, they discard you, to prove they are the prize, only to realize that you were the foundational energy that allowed them to win in the first place. Without you, they are losing in every area of their life, and they don't have the internal resources to fix it. They are unraveling in real time. Their regret is not emotional, it is logistical. They don't miss you. They miss the service you provided. They miss the peace you maintained. They miss the status you gave them. They are currently transactional beggars, trying to buy with charm what they used to get from you with love. But the charm is wearing thin, and the market value of their lies is dropping. They are entering a state of chronic bitterness, looking at the burning bridge and realizing they are on the wrong side of the fire. They are trapped in their own exit strategy. As we move into Chapter 4, the collapse is going to intensify. We are going to see the tragic end that follows the act of total erasure. We are going to look at the social isolation, the internal panic, and the final disintegration of the narcissist's ego. The "this" in our title is the fatal move that leads to their annihilation. They do this, they trade reality for illusion, and now the illusion is shattering into a million pieces of sharp truth. The tragedy is about to reach its climax, and it is a brutally truthful ending they never saw coming. The collapse begins with narcissistic anhedonia, the total inability to feel pleasure in anything. The narcissist has burnt out their dopamine receptors chasing the high of the new discard. The new supply is now stale, the new life is now routine, and the void is larger than ever. They do this, they seek freedom through betrayal, only to find that freedom is actually absolute solitude. They are sitting in a room full of people, but they are psychologically homeless. They feel nothing but a cold, gnawing hunger that no amount of attention can satisfy. This is the beginning of their internal decay. Now comes the social disintegration. The narcissist's smear campaign has backfired. Because they were so manic and cruel in their exit, they have exposed their true nature to the very people they tried to con. Their flying monkeys are deserting them. Their business partners are noticing the erratic behavior. The respectable mask has melted, revealing a small, bitter predator underneath. They do this, they burn every bridge, and now they are realizing that they are isolated on an island of shame. They have no allies left, only witnesses to their crimes. Their internal panic turns into paranoia. The narcissist becomes convinced that everyone is talking about them, that you are plotting against them, and that their new life is being sabotaged by unseen forces. This is projective paranoia. They are projecting their own malice onto the world. They start to hide. They become reclusive or overly defensive, picking fights with anyone who dares to look at them wrong. They are suffocating in a mental prison of their own deceit. They do this to find power, but they have ended up with absolute vulnerability. Their physical reality starts to reflect their internal rot. The narcissist often experiences psychosomatic collapse, unexplained illnesses, chronic fatigue, or rapid aging. The stress of maintaining the big lie is literally eating them alive. They look in the mirror and don't recognize the haggard stranger staring back. They do this mere weeks or months after leaving you, and the tragedy is written on their face. They are biological evidence of the price of betrayal. They are fading while you are glowing, and the contrast is a death blow to their ego. The new supply becomes the new victim, worse, a new mirror of failure. If the new person is also a narcissist, the war begins instantly. If the new person is weak, the narcissist despises them. If the new person is strong, they leave. The narcissist is trapped in a revolving door of human replacements, none of whom provide the deep soul fuel that you did. They are starving in a buffet of shadows. They do this to find paradise, but they have created a personal hell where every new beginning is just another failed experiment. The tragic end is the loss of identity. The narcissist has told so many lies to so many people that they have forgotten who they were supposed to be. They are a collage of stolen personas, a ghost in a stolen suit. When they do this, when they erase their history with you, they effectively amputate their own context. They are a man without a country, wandering through the social desert, looking for a reflection that isn't a caricature. They are psychologically dead long before their heart stops beating. This is the ultimate punishment for total erasure. Watch the narcissistic mortification that occurs when they see you succeed. When they find out you got the promotion, the new house, or the healthy partner, it triggers an ego collapse that is brutal to witness. They feel like you stole their success, even though they were the ones who left. They become obsessed with your happiness. It is a poison in their veins. They do this, they leave you to win, and realizing that you won by losing them is a humiliation that they cannot gaslight away. They are broken by your peace. The social isolation is the final nail. Narcissists are social parasites who need an audience to feel real. As they age, and as their charm wears thin, the audience gets bored and walks out. They end up as the bitter, lonely person in the corner, ranting about back in the day when they were important. They have no deep connections, no loyalty, and no love. They have free sex but no intimacy. They have followers but no friends. They do this to be free, but they have ended up in solitary confinement. The tragedy of the narcissist is that they are conscious of their own irrelevance. They see the world moving on without them. They see you thriving in the light while they are rotting in the shadows. This is God's irony or universal justice. The person who tried to be the center of the universe ends up as a speck of dust on the horizon. They do this, they trade reality for ego, and the bill has finally come due. The collapse is total, and there is no new supply in the world that can buy them a second chance. As we move into Chapter 5, we are going to deliver the final truth punch. We are going to provide the emotional closure and empowerment that you need to walk away forever. We are going to show you that the narcissist's tragic end was written in the stars the moment they did this. You are the hero who survived the horror movie, and the monster is currently dissolving in its own acid. The final truth is about to set you free, and it is a cinematic closing that will change your life forever. We arrive at the final truth, the secret knowledge that changes the geometry of your pain. The narcissist's tragic end isn't just about loneliness, it's about the total bankruptcy of the soul. When they did this, when they erased you to win, they effectively short-sold their own future. They traded a lifetime of integrity for a moment of grandiosity. Now, the market has corrected, and they are emotionally bankrupt. You aren't the loser of this war, you are the survivor who cashed out before the market crashed. You have the soul capital that they will never, ever possess. You must understand that their departure was actually your exorcism. 4 years, you were the life support system for a demon. You were the battery for a parasite. When they do this, when they leave, they are actually casting themselves out of your garden. It felt like a rejection, but it was actually divine intervention. The narcissist saved you from a life of slow-motion annihilation. They took the darkness with them, leaving you in the light with the freedom to finally breathe. Your healing is their ultimate defeat. Empowerment begins with radical acceptance of their hollowness. You were trying to love a simulated person. You were trying to build a home with a hologram. When they do this, when they move on so easily, it's because there was nothing to move. There was no soul to bond, no heart to break, and no memory to keep. This is the brutal truth that sets you free. You didn't lose a partner, you escaped a simulation. You are real, they are fake, and reality always outlasts their illusion. The narcissist's tragic end is stagnation. While you are growing, evolving, and deepening, they are stuck in a perpetual loop of the first date. They are doomed to perform the same charm, tell the same lies, and discard the same victims until they die. They are trapped in a museum of their own failures. Your success is the final proof of their irrelevance. Every smile you share with a real person, every moment of peace in your new life, is a dagger in the heart of their grandiosity. Why do they end tragically? Because they have no internal compass. They are sailing without a map, and the wind of novelty has died. They are drifting into the gray zone of obsolescence. As they age, and as their charm becomes creepy, they realize that they have nothing to offer the world but shadows. They are starving for the light they once stole from you. But the light is gone, and you have soundproofed your garden. They are screaming into a vacuum, and the silence is their final verdict. This is the cinematic closing of your trauma. You are standing at the edge of the forest, and for the first time, you don't feel the shadow of the wolf. You realize that the wolf was always a coward who only hunted because you offered your neck. You have reclaimed your power. You have integrated your shadow. You are now armored with secret knowledge. The narcissist is a ghost haunting a house that you no longer live in. You are whole. You are free. You are the architect of your own joy. Closure is the decision that they are irrelevant. You don't need an apology from a machine. You don't need remorse from a parasite. Their tragic end is the justice. The fact that they have to be themselves for the rest of their lives is the ultimate punishment. Imagine being trapped inside a narcissist's mind forever. No love, no peace, no truth. That is a sentence harsher than anything a judge could deliver. You have been pardoned from that prison. Walk away and don't look back at the ruin. You are the winner because you can still feel. The narcissist did this to win, but in doing so, they lost the only thing that makes life worth living, genuine connection. They are hollow men and hollow women, whispering in the wind. You are solid. You are deep. You are connected to the universe. Your vulnerability is your strength, and your empathy is your superpower. You have transcended the game, while they are locked in the arena fighting ghosts. The war is over. The light has returned. To the survivors watching this, empowerment is not about revenge, it's about resurrection. It's about finding the self that they tried to bury. They did this to kill you, but they accidentally birthed a warrior. You are untouchable now. You have the sight. You can see the red flags from a mile away. You are the guardian of your own garden. The narcissist is fading into the background noise of your history, while you are the protagonist of your infinite future. The tragedy is theirs, the triumph is yours. The final, quotable truth is this: a narcissist doesn't leave you to find something better. They leave because they can no longer handle the true reflection you held up. They end tragically because a house built on erasure can never withstand the weight of the truth. You are the truth. You are the light. And you are finally home with yourself. Go live the life they tried to steal. You earned it with your pain, but you will keep it with your wisdom. The silence of the narcissist is the music of your freedom.